It's Christmas time, every pony! Time to deck your halls and fill up your stockings, so we've got a nice, freezing cold season ahead of us. Yes, it is time once again to break out those Christmas lights and fling them onto the nearest pine tree, to bake more cookies than your guests could handle, to sing Christmas carols in the streets, and gather your family around the television to watch some good old-fashioned Christmas specials.
Seriously? That is the stupidest speech I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, why? Why would you do that?
Oh, I can think of one thing that's even stupider than all of the things I've mentioned here.
Sure. Then what is it?
Watching Hearth's Warming Eve.
Oh.
The episode opens up with the main six riding on a train to Canterlot, and from the beginning, something seems off about this episode. All of the characters' dialogue seems to be composed of the same basic, "Wow, I'm so excited for what's about to happen" sentiment, with the most tired vocal delivery. There's also a joke about Fluttershy shouting that I'm pretty sure was stolen straight from Sonic Rainboom. Aside from obvious things like Applejack's southern talk, Rarity's fashion, and Fluttershy's quiet voice, these characters show very little of what's supposed to be their personality.
So now they're playing I Spy with My Little Eye, when it really should be Big Eye, or maybe I Spy with My Little Pony. They're still saying the cheesiest lines as humanly possible, totally possible, I guess. I don't know the translation, but still. They open up at the play place, so you're somehow high up in the air, and you're somehow zooming in on the dopey hooves.
I can't believe that Princess Celestia chose us to put on the most important play of the season. Do you guys know what an honor this is?
Do you know what an honor this is, Twilight? Because you don't sound that enthusiastic about it. Fluttershy is having stage fright, as usual, and Rarity's talking only makes it worse.
You managed to be in a play, but you can't sing on stage?
Yeah, her stage fright is never really brought up here except in this one scene.
Yeah.
Applejack and Rainbow Dash are fighting because Rainbow Dash acts like this play is all about her. I love how this episode doesn't seem to give us anything about the main six beyond their main character traits. Rainbow Dash is selfish, Fluttershy is nervous, Pinkie Pie is silly. Big deal. What else is new?
AJ, your tail is upside down! Now, wow! Who, what, when, why, where, when?
This play is supposed to tell us the origin of the holiday of Hearth's Warming Eve. Spike begins the narrative of the play by telling us, in an annoyingly fake accent, that once upon a time, the Earth Ponies, Unicorns, and Pegasi all hated each other and only looked out for their own
warfare!
No welfare. They only looked out for their own welfare.
So here we have how the Pegasi and the Earth Ponies and the Unicorns attacked back then, and apparently all of their lives depended upon the Earth Ponies. Why am I not surprised? The Pegasi controlled the weather, as they do now, in exchange for food, and the Unicorns magically brought forth day and night.
One day, a great blizzard came over the land and set the tribes into peril. At this point in the play, the scene of the stage fades into a fantasy-type sequence showing how things actually would have looked at the time. On one hand, I get why they would do this. After all, watching a cheap play for 19 minutes would get old fast. But on the other hand, switching to a fantasy scene means that the writers get to forget completely about the fact that this is a play. So stuff like Fluttershy's stage fright and Rainbow Dash's egotism get pushed off into the background, meaning that all the scenes leading up to this play were totally pointless.
Exactly. In this scene, it shows how the blizzard gets worse as the boys get angrier and hungrier.
Because of the blizzard, Earth Ponies had a hard time growing food. Meanwhile, the freezing cold Pegasi could do nothing to stop the storm, and the Unicorn's magic proved to be just as powerless.
So they're all summoned to a meeting, where they are trying to do something about the blizzard. Of course, they immediately fight and come up with no solution at all. They're stuck in exactly the same place that they were before.
How predictable. The three tribes that hated each other still hate each other. What a fascinating development. The three tribal leaders, played by Rainbow Dash, Rarity, and Pinkie Pie, all go home and complain to their advisors that they can't get anything done. I'll admit, while Pinkie Pie is as fun as ever, I'm not sure how I feel about this episode centering entirely on brand new, made-up characters being played by the old ones. Yeah, all these characters act kinda similar to the main six, but they're still made-up characters with stupid motivations that don't reflect the main six at all. And for me at least, one of the biggest draws to this show is just seeing these really likable characters interact. Taking the focus off of them really makes me feel like something's missing here.
They're in a play. They're acting!
Still, even if they are acting, I don't entirely get the sense that it's still them behind the costume. Like I said before, the episode pretty quickly forgets that this is a play, and instead of using things like Rainbow's ego and Fluttershy's stage fright as motives for the characters that peek in and out during the play, they just drop the idea entirely in favor of this generic storyline.
It is not easy at all to forget this is a play. At all. You got some weird junk going up in there. Crazy voodoo. Whatever. So now, they decide to go get a new kingdom. The Pegasi are flying, of course, and having no luck. The unicorns are walking, and also having no luck. And finally, the earth ponies are also walking, and also having no luck. Way to go, you!
Each of these three skits tells the same story, just with different characters. And there is very little about each story to make it stand out. It's just the same idea repeated 3 times over.
So it gets old really fast.
All 3 rulers find new territory that they think would be good for a new kingdom, but after marking their territory with flags, they realize that they've all found the same plot of land, and then they start fighting again. All of this bickering is really starting to wear away at me. Very rarely is MLP this heavy on the angry shouting and fighting, and that's part of what makes it pleasant to watch. This episode is just ponies yelling at each other and acting smug. That's not fun, at least not how they portray it here.
Who doesn't like watching ponies or people fight?
In theory, none of these scenes are bad, but there's just so many of them, and they go on so long, and nothing new is accomplished except for the hatred getting worse. The only pony so far that I really enjoy watching in this episode is Pinkie Pie, and that's mostly because her upbeat, bubbly self still acts happy and fun, even when most of the others are reduced to shouting and pointing hooves.
Well, that's in every episode. Pinkie Pie is always hilarious, but still.
As the ponies are fighting, a blizzard starts up again, making them all frustrated.
Instead of beautiful, it was blizzardy. Instead of wonderful, it was wintry. Instead of spectacular, it was snowtacular. Instead of...
We get it! Move on!
Wow, that pretty much sums up all of my feelings toward the episode. Look kids, the ponies don't like each other.
We get it! Move on!
They still don't like each other.
We get it! Move on!
They really hate each other now.
We get it! Move on!
The ponies take shelter in a cave, and what do you know, they're still fighting. As the rulers of the 3 tribes continue to spout the same old insults, their assistants notice some ice closing over everyone. It winds up enclosing the 3 leaders and starts to creep towards the rest. As the 3 secretaries lose hope, they notice that the snow and ice is being caused by the Windigos, winter spirits that make the weather grow colder the more hatred there is. They're easily the best part of the episode, having a cool design and a cool defeat scene.
I didn't know unicorns could do that.
I didn't either.
Of course you didn't, Twilight. You don't know anything. You haven't even gotten to season 5 yet. So anyway, in this scene, Twilight does a big boom-pow magical thingy after the 3 tribe secretaries were talking. Twilight makes the Windigos go away with her magic blast of magicness. They all end up happy. Woo!
So, let me sum up this story. Once upon a time, there were these 3 groups that hated each other. They had a meeting and still hated each other. Then they ran away and bumped into each other and still hated each other. Then they found a cave and continued to hate each other until evil ice monsters threatened to zap them out of existence. The end.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I really do not know how to respond to that. Other than to do this.
What I'm trying to say is that this story has no substance. The plot just repeats itself over and over, and honestly, while I like the Windigos as enemies, the way they fit into this episode's moral is just weird. It's like they're trying to say, "You better not fight, kids, or else giant monsters will come down from the heavens and freeze you." The play ends with Equestria being founded, and everyone coming together to sing a song.
The fire of friendship lives in our hearts. As long as it burns, we cannot drift apart.
It's probably the most Christmassy thing about this so-called Christmas special, and it's pretty pleasant to listen to, even if it does kind of rip off the song from How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Afterwards, the main six are happy about how well the play went, but when Applejack leaves the window open, they all start fighting until a monster sound happens.
I like that last ending thing.
I'll admit, it's probably funnier than most other things in the episode, even if it does kind of reinforce the whole if you're bad, monsters will kill you thing. So, that was Hearth Swarming Eve. Any thoughts?
They're not gonna kill you. They're gonna freeze you in ice. If Aang made it through 100 years in ice, so can you. I like the episode. It's not as good as the other ones, so it'll probably get a lower rating. Definitely get a lower rating. Like 2, I guess? Around 2. It's in a 2 zone. 2.
In this episode, MLP celebrates Christmas. And by Christmas, we of course mean arguing. Lots and lots of arguing. And repetitive storytelling. Can't forget that. The first time I watched this episode, I actually had a hard time following it. Not because the story was complex or anything like that, but because it just kept dazing off with how bored I was. This episode is not fun. At all. Aside from Pinkie Pie and the Windigos, there is nothing about this episode that I enjoy. It almost makes you wonder if they were only doing a Christmas episode because some executive told them to. Even ignoring the long segments of angry shouting, what is Hearth Swarming Eve anyway? I get that it's a holiday about friendship that takes place around winter, that the founding of Equestria is involved, but what are the traditions? What makes this holiday stand out? What makes this episode stand out?
It's a Christmas special. Deal with it.
This isn't my least favorite episode of the show, but it's in my top 3. Another thing that I noticed while watching it is that there's no one to root for here. All of these ponies are either smug towards each other or just mopey and depressed because people can't get along. Perhaps if some of the assistants actually tried to attempt to make peace, then there'd be some interesting story going on and characters to root for. But as it stands, this just has a very negative tone, which you don't really want to have for a long time in a Christmas special. I just didn't like watching this episode. This gets a 1.5 out of 5.
Well, I guess we'll see you in the next video then. See ya!
The fire of friendship lives in our hearts. As long as it burns, we cannot drift apart. The war.
Twilight's hooves are attached to her neck. Rainbow Dash's neck is freakishly long, and Fluttershy is actually pretty normal.
Laughter and singing will see us through.